Everybody, welcome back. Got another Falcon and Winter Soldier episode with Mike and Eddie. We are going to be talking about episode 5. So we've got one more episode left in the series, and this one was a pretty heavy one. A little bit of action in it, but we're going to cover the topics. So if you want to hear what we got to say, come check us out. Anybody who's new to the channel, click that subscribe button. We are doing a 10K giveaway once we get to 10,000 subscribers. And if you want to follow along until we get there, we're getting closer and closer every day. There is a Discord link in the description below. Click that. Click subscribe. They're both free, and you might be able to win some money, right? Get some decent content along the way. So, I don't know. Up to you. All right, let's go talk about this episode.
Bring me WolverThor!
What's up, gents? How you guys doing?
What's up? What's up, bud?
Yeah.
Hey, Thorio.
I just figured we were here so we could chat a little bit about this Falcon and Winter Soldier episode 5.
Yeah, buddy.
You know what I mean? So, as always, I'll give a kind of overarching, we talked about this a little bit prior to, but there were some main themes here. To me, there's 3. The biggest one probably is Sam's struggle to take on the shield as a black man. We'll talk about that. There's another part where we didn't mention this necessarily, but Bucky and Sam becoming partners in my mind, or co-workers, whatever. There's the joke in the episode. Obviously, Walker kind of just being further rogue and kind of a nut job. Gonna join a different group at some point, given the cameo from Luis, or Julia, rather. And that Madam Hydra thing. So, anyway, we'll get into the episode here. We'll kind of, like I said, we've got these main themes. I'll still kind of generally go the scenes, but we'll hit those topics. So, anything you guys want to say before we get going on that?
Nope. Nope.
All right, cool. All right, so the first scene, obviously, what we all like to see some action. It's right after Walker kills Nico with the shield, runs into the factory. It's like, cool. All right, so you knew that was going to happen. It was obviously right away, which I think Mike, one of you guys said last week you were hoping it would. Yeah, all right, Mike. Yeah, I knew one of you were like, I hope it's right away. I hope it's right away. Sure enough, it was right away. So, Walker saying stuff like, why are you making me do this? He held his own. Cool story. The constant, I am Captain America. I'm like, bro. Anyway, so Mike, what did you dislike about all this particular scene?
Honestly, like I said last week, I wanted it to go right into them fighting and getting the shield back. They answered my wish. The main thing I'll say is, once again, in terms of fight choreography, the fight was awesome. It had Civil War, Iron Man versus Bucky versus Captain America vibes the entire time.
Yeah.
It was just a lot of fun to start out, and I'm glad Sam got the shield at the end of it.
Yeah, that's true. What about Eddie?
I thought it was awesome.
Oh, yeah, it was great. So I mean, like at the end of the trailer that we saw, when he was like, "Yeah, we do," and you're like, "Oh, Sam!" That went right into it. It was like, "Let's go."
Yep.
And like Mike was saying, there was a lot of Civil War vibes. Iron Man, Cap, and Bucky. And then some of the moves that Sam did, with the he's good with those wings, and I love the way I just love how in Winter Soldier you get a glimpse of what he can do with the wings as far as flight's concerned, and then you see him stab this thing in Endgame, and you're like, oh, he has to use the wings more. And then you watch him in fight, and then you watch him during fights, he really knows how to use these things. Why wasn't this happening before? The way that he spun around and tripped Walker with the wings and kind of shot up out of the air, that was super sick. Just small things like that. And then when they broke his arm to get the shield off, it felt like Infinity War when they were trying to get Thanos to get rid of the gauntlet.
Yeah,
that was dope. And then they snapped his arm in half, and then they threw him against the shield. I mean, it was insane. Yeah. So it was a great fight, dude. Oh man.
No, I agree. That was cool. Yeah, the part when Walker ripped off the wings off Sam, I was kind of like, damn. And even the one part when Walker looked like he was gonna actually try to kill Sam, but Bucky jumped in. I was like, okay, dude, this dude is off his friggin' rocker for sure.
Done. Dude, it's gone.
But like you guys said, they.
I
Go ahead, Mike.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Ken. Go ahead. I was just gonna say I still don't understand like when he said, "Why are you doing this to me?" or whatever he said. Like I don't know what he's talking about. He's just twitching out. He's being like I didn't understand that reference when he said that.
Yeah,
I think it's because he feels like he's the good guy. So I think he thinks that the roles are flipped. I think for me, it feels like he's doing his job, whereas they're going against him, and it's not the same. But they're on different pages.
Yeah,
I think that's what it goes for. Maybe
I think part of it too is that he's a little bit kooky, that he's just not following the rationale of the situation. Where he's, I mean, even he's just, why are you doing this to me? I am Captain America nonstop. It's like, bro, like I get the pressure on this, but you really are letting this get to you a bit. You know what I mean? And it's just, yeah. So I think it's a mixture there, and I mean,
he's a whack job at the end of it. So
yeah, and I think what's it, Wyatt Russell, right? Wyatt.
right.
Yeah, he's doing a really good job portraying the actor or the character. I've got to give him props for that.
He's getting a lot of flack from people. Like, it's one of those things as an actor when like you're doing a good job because people hate you as a person.
Yeah.
They're like, I hate this character so much that I hate you, and you're like, all right, great. I'm doing my job, but I'm not a bad person.
Yeah.
This guy that I'm playing. It's like, you know what I'm saying? So like people are giving him crap, but he's doing his job.
Yeah, like have you ever seen the actor who played Breaking Bad's what was it, Gus was his name?
Oh, everyone hates Gus.
Yeah, but have you ever heard an interview with the dude? He's like super chill, like he was like cracking jokes. I'm like, oh, you're like an okay person.
Exactly.
Yeah. So anyway, Mike, what were you gonna say?
So go.
I lost my train of thought.
Okay, cool.
Was it about Wyatt Russell as a character, as a person? Or?
Yeah.
Oh no, I was gonna say he's been in a few other movies. Like he was in Goon 2, which is like he plays like a good asshole. So like,
Right.
He's and he was also in 22 Jump Street, I think.
I think it was an episode of Black Mirror too.
Yeah, so he's a couple of the characters he's played have been like kind of dicks, and he's good at it. That was what I was gonna say.
That's
Okay,
his niche.
cool. Yeah. I mean, look, if you can pull it off, then you can pull it off, right?
Hey man, look.
Yeah. So Sam gets the shield. It kind of ends with him trying to wipe the blood off, and you can just tell like this is gonna get complicated with the shield situation. The next scene is pretty basic, just with Sam talking to Bucky about the GRC, going for Carly. Bucky going to get Zemo, Torres, coming in, looking for the wing, what happened to the wings, and Sam leaves them but takes the shield. I don't really have anything that I need to dive into in this scene. Stop me if you guys have something on that one, but that to me was just kind of like, okay, I'm just moving forward.
There were a couple things.
Story. Yeah, go ahead. What do you got on that one?
There were a couple, like when Bucky dumped the shield to Sam when he was leaving, it felt very much like Cap and Iron Man in Civil War. Like I'm saying, like this episode had a lot of Civil War vibes, and it felt like that. And then just like subtle nods to previous episodes when like Torres sees Bucky and he's like, "Hey, you got your sleeve back," because he tore it off when he jumped out of the plane.
I did like that.
Funny. That was kind of funny, but yeah, that's all I wanted to say. And then and the wings just was like, all right, F them. Keep them. I'm done. Like,
yeah, I was a little shocked by that. I'm like, okay, like I'm not sure what's happening right now. Let's see. All right, so the next,
Mike,
wait, were you gonna say something there, Mike?
No, I was just saying I agree with all your points. The one thing I'll say too, there was the one point where Torres touches the broken wings, and I was like, oh, he's taking those.
Yeah.
For sure, yeah.
I thought the same thing, because he obviously takes that mantle on. Those are exactly. Those are probably the wings he puts back together and wears himself. Yeah, I know, right? So the next part again is Walker on trial in front of the Senate, which I do want to hear about from Mike a little bit on this one, because the senator that Mike wants to say is bad is sitting there like seeming to be, outside of the fact that he's just a generally bad government person, or like not even a bad one, just kind of what you'd expect from a government person, but he seems to be like not shady. So and Walker goes nuts again, more of the Captain America screaming, just walks out. But I want to hear from Mike a little bit about this scene and what he kind of took away before we get into the Julie Louis-Dreyfus.
Yeah, I mean, the way I kind of saw it as, I mean, there's been a few parts of this episode where I think have a lot of like real life social dynamic to it, and this one like very much felt like, one, I think we all have talked about how Walker has like PTSD and he's struggling with that, and two, like how the government just literally was like, you messed up, you're out of here, no pension, we're never going to take care of you. Like that has like kind of very vibes of how I feel like government can treat people in the military. So I took that as like somewhat of a realistic aspect to the show, if you will.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that Senator, as of right now, like I said, I thought, you know, he was a bad guy. He might be just like an ancillary character that doesn't really matter in the long term. But for him to just be like, yep, we're done with you. Like, you're no longer Captain America. Thanks for coming out. Like, see you later.
Yeah.
And I think that also just turned Walker, like, that just, he's already crazy, but like you could tell that was like the last straw. Like the last thing he spent his whole life being in the military, and the military just gave up on him, and he has nothing else. And I think that'll make any person go crazy when they don't have the one thing they've based their life on, basically. So I think that's a good way they did it in putting him over the edge.
Sure.
Yeah.
Eddie?
Yeah, no, I agree with Mike. I have a brother-in-law who was in the Army. Now, he got treated very well once it was all said and done, but I know that there are a lot of people who, once it's all over for them, you know, you're kind of just like, all right, good luck to you, have fun going back to life. You know, like even the way the government deals with PTSD, even then and now, like no one worried about that. No one thought that people would go to war and then they'd come back in such bad shape mentally. Like no one thought about that apparently, because there were so many soldiers who suffered from PTSD that they just couldn't survive, and like they either committed suicide or just like couldn't get a hold of themselves. And it's almost like what he's going through is it's some sort of like a PTSD, sort of. I mean, even from being Captain America, because he harps on it so much. I am Captain America. Like, all right, but we get it. Like you were, but not anymore because you made mistakes, and we have to cover it up right now. Like, and it's just the way that he freaked out in front of the hearing. And I wanna revisit this moment when we talk about Isaiah later, so I'm gonna stop talking now.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, no, I mean, me personally, you know, I come from a military family a little bit, but you know, and my dad has been, you know, taken care of decently, always stayed in the reserves, but part of me always sees, you know, just wishes there was some sort of transition, not just for PTSD, but general military folk coming back and you know, transitioning into what I'll call regular society. You know, whether it be
being a civilian, and being a civilian is almost impossible for a large percentage of the military.
Exactly. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of like, you know, they've got to, they should give some sort of living situation to them while they essentially wind them down from being killing machines. You know, and it's like, okay, wind them down and take care of it. But that's I mean, that is a montage that we could go on forever and ever on. So I definitely, Mike, that's a good point. I didn't think about it when watching it, but that's it's something that I know that I think about personally quite a bit and wish we saw more of. So I'm glad you picked up on that. Let's see here. Let's see. So then the next scene here, when Walker walks out, he's out in the hallway with his wife. You know, she says that he needs to go visit Lamar's parents, which is smart. And then Julie Louise Dreyfus shows up, and I'm gonna screw up the name a little bit, but it's Valentina Contessa de la Fontaine, I think is what it is.
Yep.
Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
is that.
Allegra's the one party in that.
Yeah. So anyway, her.
Dope name.
Yeah.
By the way.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm like, wait, what? And as soon as she came out, I paused, and I was like, I need to hear this. What is this? And you know, I looked it up obviously, and one of her aliases was Madam Hydra. She did have some ties with Fury, which I found pretty interesting. And
love interest.
Yeah, which is really gonna be. I'm curious to see how this plays out. So, you know, she was supposed to make her first appearance apparently in the Black Widow movie. So this was her. Yeah. So I guess we're expecting her in that. But either of you guys, what I mean, what are you guys kind of expecting from this cameo? I mean, she's gonna play into the future and like potentially forming a group with Walker and others, I'm assuming. Is that hit it.
Okay, so I was doing some research. Okay, so she worked for SHIELD at one point. She was an agent of SHIELD. She went by Agent 14, I think that's what it was. And it's funny how like her character in this and in Veep are like almost similar, very like dry humor, like sarcastic. I was like, I love her already, and I love Julie Louis-Dreyfus and Seinfeld, so I'm already sold.
Yeah.
And so she sees the value in Walker, and she's got government secrets. And the Dora Milaje are taking Zemo to the raft, right? As we find out later, which is another reference to Civil War again. And it's also run by Ross, who could lead the Thunderbolts, which is run by Zemo. So it's all it feels like those ties are all kind of coming together. And I would love it if that's the way that it went. There was another agent that they introduced in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. who was similar to DeFontaine, but that show doesn't cross over to this series. So like,
it doesn't exist.
Yeah. So that part I'm like, okay, but her being in the series is great. And I just love how like she completely ignores the wife. Like she's like, "Who are you?" Hands the card, just looks like it was like her movement was so good. I was so jealous. It was great. But yeah, I would love to see where her storyline goes because it's very interesting.
Yeah. Mike, you got?
Yeah, I agree with Eddie. I think if her character is going to be like any sort of way she was in Veep, I'm all in. She's phenomenal in Veep. The dry, sarcastic humor. If it's more of like a power thing, I think it's even better. I actually find it interesting that when she was ignoring the wife basically the entire time, like I feel like the wife has no real relevance anymore. Like I feel like it was like Walker's like kind of last bit of touch of normal life or what he used to be. Yeah. But I think she's like a character that doesn't matter. Like, because that's the way Julie Louis-Dreyfus like treated her, and I feel like that's how she is in the show. Like, I feel like she's not important on the show. She's had 2 spots on it, but even in the court, like I think she's just there to be there. Like, there's no motivation for John Walker to like be good even with his wife, and I thought that was like the last connection he may have had. But yeah, I thought her like just ignoring her completely was hilarious. Also, I'll say in the comics, and I only saw this in the picture, and I thought it was a good kind of like throw to the comics. She had like blue dyed in her hair, and in the comic books, her hair is like a blue color. And that like the way they do the drawing. So I thought it was like, I think that was a little like Easter egg to it. But I thought for one second that she possibly was the power broker. But now I still don't think they've actually had the power broker be acknowledged or who it is. But very good, very, like I said, like the scene. I think she'll be excellent if she's part of this evil new side that they're playing out. I think she's an excellent actress. I'm with Eddie. Can't wait. So it'll be interesting how she's used, and I mean it's gonna be interesting how she's used in Black Widow when that comes out, because I also think her background, she ended up being a Russian spy after being with S.H.I.E.L.D., so I know there's a lot of Russian stuff that's in context with Black Widow, because that's like her lineage. So maybe that's where the route it goes down. But
that'd be dope.
Cool. Yeah.
Thor?
Well, you know, you guys covered that pretty well. I mean, I'll just add that she clearly knew he took the serum, which was interesting. So I don't know how she knows that, but she knows it. So, and that I did enjoy. Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like, all right, she's seeing something or knows something, but regardless, I'm fine with it. I did like how she said she'd be in touch and gave them basically a blank card, which I just was kind of like, cool. All right, good on you.
She said you could call me Val, but don't say it. Just keep it in your mind. Yeah. I was like, yo, who is this?
The scene was short and sweet, but delivered so much punch. I was like, yeah, I'm digging this. This was good. So let's see. What's the next thing we got up here is Carly and the Flag Smashers were at that abandoned camp. They were walking through. They were upset. You know, you can see that Carly at this point is definitely starting to go into her version of the deep end, in my opinion. You know, she screams out to them, how many times do we have to pay with our lives to be citizens of this planet? And she talks about it's time to force them to stop. So I'm kind of like, Carly's, you know, while I was all for this, like, one world, one people concept, she's losing me now at this point, because, you know, kind of like what Sam said to her is like, the way you're doing it's not the right way. So Eddie, what are your thoughts on just, it's a minor scene, but you know, what were your thoughts on this one?
Her whole stance, of course, her whole stance of just being like, when's enough, and like, when are they gonna decide to stop killing us or whatever. Like, didn't you just kill like 5 or 6 people? Like, I'm not crazy, right? Like, you definitely took some lives too. So it's almost like fighting fire with fire. It's just I don't know where head's at, and I have a bigger question once we see them again later in the show. That I'm just like, okay, whatever. But Mike, you got that up.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm actually starting to like. I don't think like I don't know. I think we've talked about this. I don't think the Flag Smashers are the villains, but what they're trying to be so far, like they're kind of irrelevant at this point.
Right.
Like I don't get like I don't get any like emotion out of that kind of anymore. I get they're like a part of this world and what's happening in Sam and Bucky's world, and they're possibly a threat. But I'm like. I just don't. I'm kind of with you. She seems to be losing it, but also like they don't seem like that much of a threat anymore. They just seem like they're doing stuff to do stuff at this point. But
there's no direction.
Right.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how they play that play that into the final episode. If that is some sort of final thing. But you're right. Like the thing I care most about is really seeing what's up with Sam and Bucky. And how Walker's gonna kind of go nuts. You know what I mean? Like that's Power Broker too. I guess there's a bunch of stuff, but yeah, I hear what you're saying. Like the Flag Smashers, at least in this episode, were kind of just, they're like over here somewhere. You know what I mean? So we'll see how that plays out. Another kind of small scene, but somewhat important. I think Eddie, you mentioned it, that we know that Zemo's going to the raft. He's at the Sokovia Memorial. Bucky meets him there. I did like the character development with Bucky, where, he goes to meet him and pulls the trigger, and there's no bullets in the gun, and he just drops them, and yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like, all right. I did like that, and that was one of the, trailer or pieces of a trailer that we've been seeing forever. And I did like how that, because I wasn't sure how that was going to play out. I assumed Zemo was going to try to kill him, and he blocked all these bullets and just was like, yeah, see what I just did? Nope, it was his like repentance for Zemo basically, and. So then the Dora Milaje come up and they just say they're taking him to the raft, and then Bucky needs a favor, right? What it is, we still don't know even after watching the episode. I do want to talk about that because it ends basically on that, so we'll save it for that part, I guess. But was there anything that you guys picked up from this scene that was more than what I added here?
Yeah, I would say the one thing I picked up on, I think that was Bucky's way of showing Zemo that he's not like like he makes his own decisions. Someone's not telling him what to do. Like he's not a killer. He has a mind of the right and wrong thing to do. Because I think there were times where Zemo treated him like in the back of Zemo's head, like he's going to go back to his original, like being an assassin and a mass murderer. But like, I think that was Bucky being like, I can kill you, but I'm going to do the correct thing and let you go to prison. And it's my choice. Like no one's telling me what to do, sort of thing. So yeah, it was a cool little scene. And, like we talked about, I think that one thing, the Bucky asked for a favor that got me all hyped up, and it was worth it in the end. So we'll see, but we can talk about that later. But yeah, quick scene, but it was cool. I think it was like Bucky's way to tell Zemo like goodbye, like, sort of thing.
I gotcha.
Right.
Eddie, you got more to add there? I know you touched on the Ross and the raft and Thunderbolts. I think that makes sense. Did you any more to add here?
No, I think I learned. I saw that there was a picture somewhere online. I forgot where I saw it, but there was a picture of like that same location where he was in a trailer versus the actual shot that they used in the show, and it's different. Like I've written down here. So in the previous shots of that statue, there were like flowers and letters that were on the ground. But in the shot on this one, there was nothing on the ground. There was like a wall of like names behind the statue, which I'm assuming had something to do with the plot changes when they were editing it for the coronavirus. So I'm assuming they got rid of certain names because of whatever reason.
Yeah.
But other than that, when the Dora Milaje show up and they have like that ship and they have it sitting in the corner, they got the 3 guards and they take them to the raft. And I was like, oh, going to the raft, word. So Ross is going to be there. I was like, dope. That can end well.
Yeah.
So I'm just waiting to see how that goes.
Yeah,
and,
that's a good
that's about it. That's all I got for it, really.
So,
but yeah, I agree with Mike as far as like Bucky pulling the gun out and then dropping the bullets. It's a way of just being like, I I think even Zuma mentioned that he crossed his name off his book form or something like that, or something. I think is what he said. Yeah, it's kind of heavy.
Yeah. So speaking of heavy, that's a good segue into our next scene here, where it's basically Sam goes to visit Isaiah. This whole scene is very heavy on the race, you know, being a black man in America, a black person in America, a black man holding the shield. There are, to me, so many quotes. I'm going to say a couple of them here. These are mainly all from Isaiah, but stars and stripes don't mean nothing good to me. You understand, every black man does. Don't do that bitter old man thing with me. That was Sam. If you aren't bitter, you're blind. Isaiah back to Sam. And then Sam admits to not getting it and wants to know what went wrong. You know, and Isaiah used to be like Sam until he opened his eyes and saw black men fighting for this country, only to have crosses burned on their lawns. So there was a ton here, So Eddie, I want to go to you on this. You know, we've had a lot of race talks, you know, just in life in general. But I want to hear what you have to say about this scene and just kind of everything that's going on.
Sam showing up with the shield the way that he did in the like the carrying case that Cap gave him in Endgame. He was like, leave it closed. I don't want to see it. Like, that's like, the Stars and Stripes don't mean anything to me, which is, you get it. He echoes the story when they walk inside the house and they're talking about, you know, like what happened with everything. He echoes the story of the Tuskegee experiments, which I believe I mentioned when we first met Isaiah. And just as a reminder, in case people forgot, it's about black Americans who had syphilis and they were offered free healthcare, but really they were given a placebo and then they were left to die. For him, you know, they gave them super soldier serum, and while a handful of them died, he was the one that survived. And then he goes on to tell another story which echoes Cap 1. So I'm gonna go back and say it again. So a story about rescuing some soldiers which they were gonna let them die. You know, they were, you know, POWs and just, you know, whatever. He went over there and did that. He felt like it was in him to save them, and he had the power to do it, whatever there and save them, right? Now in Cap First Avenger, he did the exact same thing and got praised galore for it.
Oh yeah.
Isaiah does it and gets he goes to jail for 30 years and gets experimented on. And like, because of what I said before, the idea of like, I'm not even sure what year it was Captain America, but it was in a year where black people were not seen as like icons or as like symbols. So like, to have a black man be someone like Captain America trying to be a symbol, it wouldn't have vibed, and like the government would never allow that. They'd rather just put him in the dark, keep him a secret, and let no one would ever know, and just black out his entire life. I mean, they redacted probably everything. Yeah. And just experimented.
I think Isaiah's technically would have been around like the Korean War.
Korean War?
Yeah.
That makes sense. Thank you. And then it's just like, you're looking at a guy whose life, his history, the triumphs were just snatched away to be hidden in the dark forever. And there's always a lot of discussion I see in like different movies and television shows where like black men in America during war times, you go to war as soldiers. That's the idea. You're enlisted like everybody else, and overseas we're brothers. But the moment that we get back in the United States, you are back to being that black dude. And like, it's just like it never translated over. And we're all, even me, I'm left wondering like, why? Like, how can I be brothers with you over here and you have my back? But then when we get across back into our actual soil, it's not the same. And so I get why he's bitter, because he saw what America really is and how it hasn't changed. They just put like a new facade on it, but Sam doesn't see it yet. So he's trying to convince Sam otherwise. I feel like he's trying to do that, but I feel like Sam, he knows something different about it, or he has a different look on it, which I respect. I mean, you're looking at two different generations who see things differently. Yeah. I do. And people who I talk to, I mean, old folks who I go to church with, like back in PA, they have a different view on life as well. It's just different viewpoints. But I feel for Isaiah. I mean, it really sucks to do pretty much everything that Cap did, but to get nothing for it. And to talk about that, Walker, when he's in front of when he's on trial, not on trial, but I guess when he's being talked to at that hearing, reprimanded. He gets to walk away clean. If that was Isaiah, he's going to prison, like easily, or he's getting nothing and minus that or plus that, whatever. Like he would get a way worse sentence or whatever. And so that also screams for that too. It's just like, you see the differences. Like, it's very obvious, and it hurts. It hurts. So
yeah, no, you know, it's funny. I didn't, Mike, we'll go to you in a second. I didn't even think about the idea of Walker in this scenario. You know, I definitely thought about like the cap and, you know, the difference there, and just like how they just kind of threw Isaiah to the side. And yeah, that's a good point. Like, if that was a black man who was holding that shield and did what Walker did, you're 100% right. 100%.
right.
So
Which
anyway.
makes you look at Sam. Like if Sam was given the shield and then pulled that stunt, oh my God, he would be just crucified. I mean, it would be a problem.
Yeah.
It would be literally a problem.
Yeah, yeah.
But, yeah.
Mike, you want to add some?
Yeah, I would say, and I think we talked about it when we first were introduced to Isaiah. We knew there would be a callback to him. Even when he was first showed up, I would say the actor who plays him that is phenomenal. Like, emotional, like you just feel it feels real.
Yeah.
I thought it was a very poignant scene. I thought Sam got to almost take a look behind the curtain of what it used to be like to be a soldier for the Army, because I think Sam's in the new age where he probably may have been treated better in a sense. And I think this may help give Sam motivation to want to take on that mantle, knowing that, you know, there was men behind him who should have deserved it and didn't get it. So I thought it was very good. And also, to Eddie's point, I thought the part where he's talking about how he saved the POWs, I immediately thought of Captain America: First Avenger. It was it was
Literally the
described
same
exactly what he did.
Exactly.
And he was sent straight to prison.
Right.
So you can understand his bitterness towards everybody, especially the government or the military. But yeah, great scene, emotional, awesome. I don't know if they keep Isaiah in this world, but he's fantastic in the parts he's been in so far.
Yeah, I agree. So they kind of wrap this scene up a little bit with you know, them continuing the dialogue. You know, Isaiah talking about, you think times are different. He says, makes a comment about the white man's shield. You know, I think Eddie, you talked about how the story for Isaiah getting covered up, and Isaiah's comment was they've been doing that for 500 years, and he says, "Pledge allegiance to that, my brother." And I was just like, when he said that, I was like, me just saying it right now, I just am like, oh my god, like this dude's not wrong, like he's right, you know what I mean? And I was just like, and then the part that really you can see where Sam might struggle a little bit is Isaiah goes on to say, they will never let a black man be Captain America. Even if they did, no self-respecting black man would ever want to be.
Right.
And that's when Sam ends up, that's the last thing they say to each other. Sam leaves and calls Sarah and says he's going home. Now, there's more to this later, but if either of you have more to comment on this than what we did, I did find that part interesting where I was kind of like, wow, like I'm a white man. I am not a black man, so I cannot understand this conversation personally. But that was heavy, and I was definitely like, how is Sam going to navigate this? I don't know.
Yeah, I think, and we said it before coming on here, but I would say the way they've done, I would say the social commentary that's going on in real life, they make poignant like points about it, without like not shoving it like as a main point, but it just hits when you do it, you know. Yeah, just the writing, the way they've been doing everything has been fantastic.
Yeah,
For sure. Yeah, that last line when he says, pledge allegiance to that, or, no black man would be Captain America, no self-respecting black man. And it's like, that's a heavy line, because what he's saying is that, like, if you're properly educated, you would not want to carry that mantle. And you're like, why? And like, well, because you would know why.
yeah.
And I feel like Mike said, the Army treated Sam differently, probably differently than they treated Isaiah. So like, he has a different viewpoint than they do, but now he's being educated. Now his eyes are kind of open a little bit, and you have to wonder, like, can I carry this mantle? I'm very intrigued to see what the last episode's going to be, because and then I want to come back to this when we talk about what they talk about when they're at the house in the bayou, because there was a conversation that I was like, so is he okay, we'll talk about it when we get there though.
Yeah, well, okay, so that's kind of the next transition is Sam going to the bayou. You know, it starts with him fixing the nets on the dock, and that's fine, and you know they're gonna get the boat and the community together, and a lot of that, I mean, it had to been at least 15 or so minutes of, you know, scenes was really just that. There wasn't a whole lot to it other than, yeah, it's, you know, there was the part that Eddie, I think you're alluding to, where Sam talks to Sarah about Isaiah and how Sam's trying to figure out what it all means, but just hanging in there with the family. You know, the government took control, and you know, Sam, actually that part, there was nothing much there. Actually, I take that back. So Sam, there's not a big conversation at this point. Sam's basically benched. He's just chilling in the bayou. Bucky shows up, he's helping him unload, brings the gift for Sam. So we can jump into this, I guess at this point, we don't know because it never shows even later, but there's something from the Wakandans in a box that we don't find out what it is this episode. Now, you know, Mike, you had made some comments before the shot started on air, so why don't you share kind of where you're at?
So listen, I fully think, especially the way, because it's from Bucky, I'm gonna say this is Sam's vibranium Captain America, half Falcon wing super suit, awesome badassness. Can't wait to see it. It's. I haven't seen it yet, but chef's kiss. But yeah, I think this will be like an indestructible suit for Sam. Like, because Walker had ripped off his old wings, I think this is a new version, and I think this will be a Captain America-based uniform, whatever you want to call it. But I hope I'm right. Hope I'm not wrong, because that's what's in my head, and if it doesn't happen, I'm gonna die. But yeah. That's what I got.
All right, cool. Eddie, you got anything to add to that?
You know, I'm on the same page with Mike. Like, the moment he was like, "Yeah, I got a gift from Wakanda," because I thought he was gonna ask for something about, you know, they had to do it with Zemo, but then he got like Sam a gift, and you're like, "Oh, so they're still cool." Yeah. And then he brought it over, and you know, at the end he opens it up, and it was like very like Pulp Fiction vibes. You just open it up, and you don't really see what's inside. Was it Pulp Fiction? Is that what it was?
No, you're thinking of you're thinking of what's in the box?
Seven.
That's quite a little bit different vibe in that movie, but I definitely had that thought. What's in the box? I was gonna do a soundbite on that for this. It's like, yeah, we'll save it for another time.
But he opens it up, takes a look inside, and I'm hoping it's like the most like hard suit ever. Like I'm hoping just murder. It's like I'm sure it'll be similar to like maybe a Cap suit or like his own Falcon suit, but like a little bit more swagger just because it's Sam. Yeah. Yeah. That's I'm excited.
All right, cool. So, you know, like I mentioned, they're fixing the boat. Bucky's sticking around to help. I do want to say I enjoy the Bucky flirting with Sarah, Sam's sister vibe. That's it's just hilarious. I think it's fun, and I'm kind of like, man, I just want these guys to be in more seasons of a show together. I don't know how they need to make it work, but yeah, Bucky needs to date Sarah. Like, these two need to have this weird, awkward dynamic, whatever you want to call it. I'm like, I just love everything about it. So, let's see what else. Then, you know, this, normally I would have thought there would have been more to this scene, but Walker talking to Lamar's parents, really the only thing that I pulled from this scene was just Walker lying about the fact that he killed the person that killed Lamar. I just don't. I mean, I guess I get it to the parents to make them feel better. I mean, but at the same time, I don't understand why he wouldn't just be like, I will get this person. Like, I don't know. He's clearly in denial that he did anything wrong. I guess that's all my takeaway is. So,
I don't think it's denial. I think his reality is what he's making up in his head.
Right.
Like, I don't know if the serum is messing with him. I think it's not even denial. I think he needs to say that to manifest whatever's going on in his head. Like, he's just out of his mind.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, he's off the reservation. Like, I mean, I agree with Mike and you, Thor. Like, the idea when he was just talking to them and like, clearly, Nico didn't kill their son. Harley did, but he's blaming the guy and saying that like, because he killed him, that should give you closure. and then he'll actually do it himself under the radar, and then they'll never know. But you're like, yo, like something's going on with you, but like you got to stop lying. And then she gives him the picture, and that was like what their first tour or something like that. I think that's what he said.
So, yeah.
The sister was like oddly, the sister was oddly quiet and kind of like giving him the side eye, which I was kind of like, she knows what's up. Like I feel like some part of me was like, she knows what's good. But then he leaves and that's it. And you're like, what is going on with this cat?
Yeah. No, I agree.
His story arc has to come to a hard ending.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how that shapes up. So,
oh man.
The next scene, I don't know if you guys watched this on subtitles or not, but I did the second time. Did you? Yeah, Eddie did too. So,
I did, yeah.
So it's Sharon Carter on the phone, and when I first saw it, I didn't really think anything of it. But if you watch it with subtitles, she's talking to Batroc, who's the villain in Winter Soldier to start, who stole stuff, and was the villain in the first episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier. And she says all of these things where it's kind of like, she admits to getting him out of prison. She's paying him double versus what she paid him last time. So she's got him out of prison. She had him do a deed, and then she's gonna pay him again. I'm like, all right, is she the power broker? There is something up here. Like at first I thought that was way too obvious. Like, no, she's not the power broker. That's too obvious. Can't be her. But I don't know, man. Like, what were you guys? What's going on? What's going on?
Let me roll on this real quick. So I heard somewhere like someone interpreted what he said over the phone.
Oh.
What he said was, I lost my whole team in the last mission, and I'll never work with you again. So that first mission in the first episode was Sharon Carter. She said the whole thing up with Batroc. And
where Falcon saves the guy in the helicopter.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh my god.
And so that's crazy. So she was involved from episode 1. We just didn't know it was her, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that she's the power broker though, because the pronoun game they use for the power broker, they always say he.
Yeah.
And Zemo knew the power broker before this series, and he refers to him as a he. So I'm not sure that she's the power broker exactly. She might be working either opposite of him, like they're enemies, or she's maybe like a double agent. I don't know where she falls in with this, and that might be due to the fact that like her story's not over yet because we still have one more episode, or due to the rewrites from the coronavirus, flip. So that might be the whole thing. But I think this kind of ties into I'm gonna go ahead and say it. When Batroc meets the Flag Smashers in New York, two things. One, it seems like she's trying to use Batroc to like get the Flag Smashers to like kind of like to lure the Flag Smashers to the power brokers so she can like kind of get back. It's kind of like a double move there. And number two, how did they get to New York when they're like wanted fugitives? Because story, is that why they got there? Because I was so confused by that. I was like, wait, weren't they just overseas and they're like problem for people? How did they just get over the border? Like, what the hell? I was so confused.
I agree with you. I will say, I think the one thing that you could say, and they've mentioned in the show, is that the Flag Smashers have fans or help anywhere. So
right.
So I mean, that's not out of the realm of possibility, but I'm it's also part of the TV show. So
That's true. You gotta just look past it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't know who. I don't think I'm with Eddie. I don't think she's the power broker, but I could be wrong. But I think I've said this before. I think she's pretending to be bad, still being a double agent, and like I think she's infiltrated. I think she's trying to get to the power broker or works with the power broker, but like is on the side of good because she is helping Buck and Sam as much as possible, and you wouldn't do that if you're playing, because she's technically helping both sides. She's helping the Flag Smashers theoretically, and now Buck and Sam. So I think she's being funky. It's going to be interesting where her arc is. I'm with you, Eddie.
Right.
Of what she is, because if she is fully bad now, then that's interesting as well.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. It's a good point. So we're back in Louisiana again. Sam's nephew's playing with the shield. Bucky thinks it's cute. It was kind of fun. Some more help with the boats. Some initial shield training time, which was kind of fun. It actually, right. And then Bucky actually addresses the fact that neither of them could have know what it was like in them being Bucky or Steve Rogers for what it was like for a black man to be handed the shield, and he apologized to Sam. So I found that kind of interesting. you know, as far as that goes, and you know, Bucky continued to talk about the shield and just his attachment to it, because it was, in his mind, the closest thing to family he had left. And when it was gone, it made him question everything. So I think he was apologizing to Sam for one, not thinking of Sam and only thinking of himself. There's, you know, I liked this scene. I thought it was kind of nice. You know, Sam gets wise later with Bucky, tells Bucky, and I find this interesting because I feel like Bucky already did this, given the scene with Zemo. It already happened at this point. So I don't want to call this a writing error, but Sam says to Bucky, like, stop looking at other people to tell you who you are. And one of you guys mentioned earlier, like, well, that's what your interpretation of the scene with Zemo was. So I'm kind of like, all right. I mean, it makes sense, but I still like that Sam was wise there. Sam goes in through some tough love, and I did like this part a little bit where he tells Bucky to do some real work. Like, actually go do some service for the people that you've harmed. Don't say you're sorry. Do service with them. And I like the part where he says, start with one. You know, I thought that was really cool. And then Bucky says that he'll be there if Sam needs him, you know, for Carly, just make a call. So a lot there. Oh, and then they joke about their relationship of coworkers or coexisters or just a couple of guys or whatever. So a lot there in that scene. But you know, Eddie, what you know, from everything from the start to the finish there, what were some of your takeaways?
One thing I want to talk about is how Bucky was he found those kids playing with the shield while he was sleeping on the couch, which before he was sleeping on the floor. So that's like that's a nice character improvement. He's coming up in the world.
Good catch.
Bucky talks about what he and Steve what Steve told him about the plan for the shield was, which I just want to see that scene so bad. I want to know what they talk about because I'm just like so curious. And I knew that
as soon as he said that, I was like,
roll the flashback. Like, I was like, please do it.
Like, is it in your notebook? Can we read it? Like, what is it?
What was the discussion? I gotta know. Yeah, when that was brought up, I was like mad. I was like, I was the same way. It came up and I was like, flashback. Why are you still talking? I was like, what is going on? And then he said, Steve's gone. So are we talking like dead or like out of the picture? Like what is the definition of gone mean? Like, is there a tombstone we can visit to know that he's in there? Like, I just don't know what that meant. I love the little workout montage. I got like big Rocky vibes from that. I kind of just wanted to kind of play Eye of the Tiger and see what happens. And their discussion of, you know, do some real work on yourself, which, you know, he's doing, which he started with Zemo by pulling the gun and then dropping the bullets. Yeah. And you know, following the second rule of not hurting anybody. And I feel like the last episode he'll be with I forgot the dude he hangs with, the Asian guy. I can't remember his name.
Yes, yeah. the father of the Sonny.
The son that he killed.
Yeah.
I feel like he'll have that moment with him, like, you know, I was this person, yada yada yada, and you know, I'm sorry, I took your son from you. Yeah. I was aware of it, but I didn't know who he was to you until right now, and then that's gonna be a really, if that happens, powerful moment. I hope that's a really powerful scene. I'd be intrigued to know how, you know, if he bounces, hey, I'm fighting Carly, and he just shows up, and you're like, oh, dope. Like, I'm hoping it's like a Thor level of kind of entrance when he shows up to help Sam. That'd be kind of dope. But yeah, Mike, you can go. Pardon me.
I thought all of that. I think, like you mentioned, the arc of Bucky sleeping on the couch. I thought that was like a nice little key. Also, that he was sleeping. I think he also said he like doesn't sleep, or when he does, he has nightmares. And it was like, you know, it looked like he had like a solid night's rest sort of thing. Yeah. But I will say, and I might be the only person here, I didn't like the workout montage. I thought here's what I don't understand. He was like working out and doing all these things to get strong, but he's been a soldier. He's been like, I don't know how much stronger he could get. Like, it was cool that he was doing stuff with the shield. I get that, but it was like, it was a little too cheesy. I don't know.
It was, yeah. I agree with you.
It was a little bit like, I get it. I get it in the sense, like, if it was just training with the shield, I get it. But it was like him trying to get stronger and all this stuff. It's like, you're a badass already. Like, there's not much more badass you can get, but there was some cool parts, like him doing like the Captain America flip. I thought like was a nice little nod. But yeah, I think it's and then the other thing where and I'm going back and forth, but when Bucky says, if you call me, I'll be there, that was very much a Steve Rogers to Iron Man. After I thought I thought that was a nice little like, not like everything's a nod to everything, I feel like. I thought that was very good. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited that Sam is finally like has the confidence and the wherewithal to be like, I'm embracing everything about this now. And I also like the arc of Bucky seemingly like coming into his own, of back to a normal person. But you can tell, I think, that Buck truly like cares about Sam, where it's like, it's not just like, oh, we're buds or whatever. Like he's his partner.
Yeah. No, I agree. So, and you guys, touched on this a little bit, with the just basically I should say it differently, is that we've been talking about, or at least I've been trying to say, like, I don't understand how Sam's going to eventually get the shield or accept wanting to take on the shield. So as we transition from this scene, it goes back to him and Sarah, Sam and Sarah. And, they don't want to do the boat and paint the boat and all this stuff. But they have this conversation where, they can't lose this fight. The boat, or they're talking about, like, they don't say specifically, but the fight. And Sam says, all their struggles as a people and how we wanted to show them and change the world. Like, that's what Sam wanted to do. Like, he wanted to show everybody else, like, I'm going to change the world. That's what my plan was. And Sarah says to him, are you going to really let Isaiah get in your head? So clearly they had some conversation. The part that really, to me, is, Sam says he understands where Isaiah's coming from, but this is the part where I think Sam has, like, kind of stood his ground to say, this is why I'm going to take up the mantle. What he says specifically, and Eddie, I really want to hear what your thoughts on this, because I personally, again, white man here speaking, but I really liked what he had to say here, is that he said, what would be the point of all the pain and sacrifice if it wasn't willing to stand up and keep fighting? And when I heard that, I was like, that's it right there. That, after everything he's seen, said, heard, etc., is he's going to do this because he wants to fight and he wants to make sure that these fights continue. So anyway, what I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts there?
For sure, that line has been said to me in different ways throughout my life, not in such like superhero manners, but like the idea of like your ancestors kind of like they did all these things so that we could be free. Granted, we're not free in the way that we'd like to be, but they did enough for us to have this life now. You know what I'm saying? I feel like Sam's idea is like he sacrificed 30 years of his life that he just got 30 years taken away from him, but he did it so that I could sort of be here today. And I'm not going to let that kind of like, I guess, hold me back from having a voice, or like, being, just being this icon. And I feel like he is driven by that, which is great. Like, I don't know, like there's something to be said about still fighting. Like, for instance, if my ancestors did all these things and we were just like, we're never going to be free, and we just stopped caring, we'd be slaves again. There's a good chance of that. That would just fall back in line again. But because they did those things, we're always driven every day to try and be the best that we can be for ourselves. Granted, it's much more of a tougher climb than most people, but we do it every day. I mean, I do it every day, but it's like, they did these things for me, and I'm not going to let it just fall by the wayside. I have to keep pushing forward, and one day there will be a progress. There will be progress where I can look at it and go, all right, we carried it on. It took a little bit, but we got there. Yeah. So that's kind of where I was at with that.
I got you, Mike. You got anything to add?
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with Eddie, and I think you look at it, like I said, there's social undertones that this show has done, especially when it comes to race and things like that. But I think that quote, like, you look at in real world, like the Martin Luther Kings to the generations that have come now, so like the Black Lives Matter stuff that's happening now, like people that are fighting for this new aspect are fighting because of generations before them. So I took that as like Isaiah being the old guard, I want to say, for Sam to embrace the new fight that Isaiah tried to do but wasn't able to. I just think it was very well done, very, again, emotional, very strong, and has a lot to do, I think, with the social dynamic that's happening in real life today.
Yeah,
Sure.
And yeah, I think the show has done an excellent job talking about race and the things that are going on. I applaud every aspect that they've done so far because they do it well and justified.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, their writing is, they do a good job. Yeah, I'm just echoing what you're saying, but like just the way they write it, it definitely makes you think about it, and it's like, okay, all right, you want to digest it and think about it and process it and chat about it, which is good. Even us sitting here talking about this, it's a good thing. So, at least in my mind. So the next transition we got here, let's see, what is it? Oh yeah, so there's some more training just with the shield. He gets better. The part I did like how they ended the scene, how the nephew touches the shield and looks really proud. I liked seeing that because it kind of echoes kind of what we're talking about is maybe this next younger generation from Sam, like they are seeing what the next, thing can be. So I did dig that. All right, Eddie mentioned, hit it, Eddie, go ahead.
Real quick, in a way, I like that they're doing this because this might be hard to kind of like connect, but Black Panther, Chadwick Boseman's character, just Chadwick Boseman in general, he was a big icon for the Marvel Universe. Man, he was like the first like standalone film that had it had no ties to other movies. It was only this movie, and he was a symbol. And I think Anthony Mackie talked about what's gonna happen now because Chadwick has passed. Like, what's gonna go on? Like, I think they talked offset or whatever like that about how you're next. It was almost like a handing of the torch. So this kind of I feel like this conversation with Isaiah almost parallels with Chadwick Boseman, the idea that you can be the next symbol for our people. And that's a possibility. I'm not saying that might be what it is, but it kind of echoes that or kind of reads like that a little bit, which would be dope. It'd be cool if Anthony Mackie were to not take over, but kind of just step up to be the next one. I'd like that personally. But yeah, I just wanted to echo that.
No, I think it's a good point because after Black Panther came out, you saw, that became a cultural phenomenon. People walking around just doing people it was all over sports. Everybody was doing it. I'm like, this is a legit thing. So, a little bit different, but it would be nice to see if Anthony Mackie could find a way to carry that on. Especially since it's, Wakanda's obviously in Africa, but to find a way to tie in, the black culture as well as I'll say the white man shield aspect of this, the American white man shield situation. If Mackie can pull it off, it would be something that I don't know. I as Stan Lee was always into equality. I think it would make him proud. If this truly does get pulled off in the proper way. So yeah, I like what you got to say there. Honestly, I think it's fingers crossed there. Let's see. So the transition next is, I mentioned the shield, talk to the nephew. Eddie, I think you talked earlier about Carly meeting with Batroc in the park. There's not really anything to add there. They just talk about how they're not going to let this GRC vote happen. And that Batroc says he wants to kill the Falcon. Probably because he lost all his men in that battle. Okay. He just wants revenge. So there's not much there. Torres then informs Sam, like you guys already mentioned, that the flags marchers are likely in New York. And Sam says he's going to take it from there. The GRC vote goes dark. You don't necessarily see what happens other than the one guy walking in saying, one world, one people. And then Sam's got the box on the bed. He opens it, has his Pulp Fiction type scene. It's, it's not really the 7 scene, but it's something in the box, right? We got something in the box. And I want to know what the hell's in the box. We already talked about that. But, before we get to the mid-credit scene, is there anything from all those multiple scenes I just mentioned that, either of you guys kind of saw that means something to you in the, higher arc of the show? It looks like you want to say something.
Yeah. By the way, Eddie, you are correct in the Pulp Fiction. I think it's what's in Samuel L. Jackson's bag.
Right.
He's being held up, and they open it up and it's gold like that. I think that's what you were.
That's what I was going for.
So,
thank you.
And ironically, it's a Samuel L. Jackson scene because he's Fury. And, Anyway, but I'll say this: the thing that doesn't make sense to me, and again, maybe it's just this version of, call it the super serum, but when Batrick meets Carly. And they open up like he's like, hey, I have something for you, and it's just like a couple guns and grenades. It's like they're super soldiers,
right?
To me, I thought that was such a weird. And again, it makes me think that like the Flag Smashers are somewhat becoming irrelevant because it was like that's the big takedown of just like. You have a suitcase with a couple grenades and guns and like this, your big bat, like you're super soldiers. Am I missing something in this super soldier serum? So I was like that, like I just like looked at it. I was like, that was stupid. But like again, it could get better on the last episode. I'm a big proponent on. I feel like 6 episodes. I feel like they need to do more episodes. I feel like they can answer a lot more questions and not rush certain things. Like I feel like this season, again, it might be awesome and they might finish it great. I feel like they could have done like 8 episodes and put some small pieces together a little bit better. But that's nitpicky. We'll talk about that after the last episode next week. But yeah, the what's in the box moment was the coolest thing for me because my mind went a mil. I was just like, I know what's in it. I know what's in it. I didn't have to see it. It didn't matter. Yeah. The other thing I'll say real quick, and we didn't discuss it, but it goes back to Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and I'm just thinking about it now, is when she's talking to Walker and she said the shield doesn't belong to the government.
Oh yeah.
I thought that was a very interesting, like, it was minute, but it was like, what's that mean?
Yeah.
Right.
So that I just had to say that if we talk about it. But yeah, I would say that part where Carly meets Batrick, I took that with like a whatever. Again, I wasn't a fan of Sam's training part. That's but everything else. I thought the whole episode in general was awesome. It felt, I think I said this to you guys offline, but it felt like a movie. I don't know why.
Right.
It felt like I was watching a movie the entire time. But yeah, that's what I got.
Yeah, no. I think it's funny that they just got like a little bags of gun and grenades and they were fighting with knives earlier. You're like, is this an upgrade?
We're missing the part where they have super strength and speed and are super soldiers.
What do you need guns for? Like, I don't fully get it. Also, when you're talking about how like it kind of the series kind of harps on like, well, not harps. It kind of feels like you need more episodes. I agree with you 100%, but I also feel like that comes from how they changed the script because of the coronavirus. I feel like there probably was more, but then they had to cut out like a whole bunch because of they didn't want to be insensitive. So it's like, I feel like we're only getting like maybe 75% of the story, maybe a little bit less than that. And I'm like, I wish we could see like what it originally was meant to be.
Yeah.
Just to get the whole picture.
But even like going back to how we talked about like with Bucky, like seeing his progression, going to see the father of the kid who he killed. Like I feel like there could be like more of that where it's more established for Bucky to get like an apology or like get better. Because even Bucky's like, it felt like Bucky had really bad PTSD sort of thing. And even that seems like kind of rushed.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Right. The natural.
But I'm not harping on it. I love, like I said, but I again, I'm fine with it. But I think they could have like tied up because I feel like there's still some loose ends in the show that they haven't really tied up.
Right.
Well, and you know, one of the things I keep thinking about is something that honestly, Mike, I got from you was this concept that these shows are meant to set up movies. So, you know, I don't know necessarily what movie this might be setting up. I'm trying to think. I mean, most of the movies coming up are like a, you know, mystic type movie or, you know, quantum realm type movies. But
My one theory on that is it won't be a tie-in for a new movie, but I think because Julia Louis-Dreyfus was going to be in Black Widow, I think you get a lot of the villains and the groups that are going to be in Black Widow are going to be in a future, like, Hydra aspect.
Thunderbolts.
In the near future. Yeah, it's setting up Thunderbolts.
Right. Yeah.
I think the Black Widow sets up who the people in the Thunderbolts do.
I got you.
Fish out.
So then the last thing of the episode that we got was the mid-credit scene, and basically Walker is making his own shield with his little Medal of Honors on it, and he's spray painting it. So he's clearly going his U.S. agent route, Thunderbolts route more than likely. I don't really have anything to add other than I am looking forward to seeing what the heck this guy is going to do and how this group's going to shape up. But
that scene had very much Iron Man 1 vibes to me.
It had the hammer.
when he's making the first suit in the cave, like that's the smashing and everything about it. It was 100% 100% that.
Well, and didn't they have wasn't there a hammer noise at maybe the end of Endgame or something like that? Yeah.
Yep.
That's as soon as I heard that, I was like, wait, are they tying this to Endgame right now? What is happening? And it was John Walker, like, what's okay? So.
You know that ending scene. I think Mike and I were talking about it after the episode was over. I remember you texted me, "Are you done?" I was like, "I'm almost like, all right, save some post credit." I'm curious as to what he's making his shield with, because like,
if it's just steel, like that's a cheesy shield.
That's gonna break in a heartbeat. Because I mean,
I thought the same. I was like, wait, he's just you're just making it. Like,
yeah, like unless yeah, I was like, unless she gave him the hookup, then I'm like, I don't know what you're making your shield with. And I thought it was crazy how like when he's painting it, like when he's holding it, like his thumb is like red, like it's covered in red. Like he didn't give a damn about anything. Like he was just like going to town the shield, and like he's using like the Medal of Honor to like weld it together. It was just like, it was a bunch of craziness, but like. Yeah. I don't know how that shield would stand up against the actual Cap shield, because the thing is made of vibranium. That thing doesn't break. I mean, unless you're Thanos and you have that giant, like, you know, that giant staff, or a giant like double-sided sword. But like, I just don't.
Bucky punches that thing once and it goes.
Yeah,
exactly. Just done.
I wouldn't be surprised if someone did find a way to get him something, but. I mean, I still don't know. I mean, even Madam Hydra or whatever, they're like, does she have ties to get vibranium? Like, maybe, I guess.
I don't know if she has that.
Well, I mean, but if you think about it,
when you're bad in that world, I feel like, you know, I mean, you know, you go even back to like
Claw.
Right.
Yeah, Claw had a bunch of it. Like, it's a commodity that apparently other people have gotten. So who's to say? But I'm with Eddie. If that thing is made out of like steel, like that's the cheesiest thing I've ever it makes him look more like a fool.
2 seconds, done.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yep. So that's the end of the episode. Any final thoughts before we sign off here, folks?
Episode 6. Can't wait.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Can't wait to see. I just want to know all the things. I want to see Sam in his new awesome suit. And we'll see who hopefully the power broker is. But like I said, awesome episode. Loved every second. There was a couple cheesy parts, but this show has been awesome.
Yeah. No.
Sorry.
Yep. I agree. No, it's okay. You almost. We almost made it the whole way. Almost
made it a whole episode.
Make sure to do the shield again.
Yeah. For anybody who missed it before, we did a fun shield for that.
It's so much fun.
It's all good, buddy. It's all good. So if you made it this far, we appreciate you guys hanging out with us. You know, like the guys said, we're gonna definitely have episode 6, and we'll do Loki when that comes out. That looks like a pretty solid episode, so we're looking forward to doing that. Hammer down that like button, click the notification bell, subscription button, all this stuff. Remember, like I said at the front end, we got the 10K giveaway for 10,000 subscribers. And until next time, we hope you have a wonderful day. See ya.